Hey, today we're going to talk a little bit about how to breathe when you sing because your breathing is really so fundamental. It's like, it's basically the thing that will allow you to do a high note or a loud note or a quick succession of notes or a long note or it just, if you get your breathing right, the rest of it's not so hard. But the funny thing is that when you read about this stuff, there are some conflicting views, to say the least. So, for example, what have I got here? This guy here, Roger Love and Donna Fraser. They're very successful. They're not like me. I bobble along, but I'm not that successful. Set Your Voice Free. It's an excellent book, right? And I've taught a lot of students something maybe along the same lines as what they've said, in the sense that they're trying to say your diaphragm. Let's move this down a bit, hey? It's down here. It's down here. Your diaphragm needs to be the bit that you work and you expand. So if you're going to breathe in to sing, something like that. These muscles work here, these work here, there's a bit more space in this area. And the funny thing is that he says repeatedly, he goes into singing workshops and he sees people sort of, like big movements around their shoulders, and he's like, I just need to move that diaphragm. That's all you need to do. You don't need to do any more than that. You have enough power there. You have enough space there. And I'm not really sure I agree with him, to tell the truth. But what I do know is that if you teach someone to breathe by explaining to them exactly what muscles to move, so you get them to put their hands there on their lower ribs and they feel their ribs expand, it's like, yeah, that's the bit you have to expand. Then it does, the fact that they're working the diaphragm is absolutely essential. Like, without that, you don't go any further. And indeed, it can be really helpful to tell them, just don't move this at all. Like, keep this completely still. So I do this trick where I pull my shirt up a bit, which I won't do on camera. And then I keep my hands here, and this whole area just doesn't move at all. It does a little bit, doesn't it? And then I breathe in. And they're quite surprised. They're like, oh, really? You can breathe like that? I'm like, yes, yeah, I can. And that's a huge help, right? That's like basic step one. But then we also have a conflicting opinion here from a book called, I found this, it's like really old school. Where's it gone? Can't find it now. It is called Voice Production in Singing and Speaking, based on Scientific Principles, by Wesley Mills. It's like the cover has got somebody with a lute on it. It's really old school. I reckon it's probably out of copyright or something. I don't know. I'm not going to read from it anyway. But basically, he tells this story of this young girl who comes in, and she's like really expert at moving her diaphragm. But then she sings in front of him, and he's like, oh, well, you sound nice, you have a nice tone, but your voice sounds weak. You need to exercise using all these muscles here and fill up your lungs properly. And he actually prescribes her the way that these old school semi-doctor / whatever they singing teachers were in those days. Go out for daily walks, go out running, exercise, move around, breathe in like that. And he gives us some breathing exercises that are not a million miles away from Wim Hof breathing, I would say. And Wim Hof does say that he didn't invent it. So yeah, this sort of thing's been around for a long time. And so it's interesting, like, you've got one very successful teacher saying, just don't move anything up here, don't use it, don't use this space, you need to breathe down here. And you've got another one saying, well, you're breathing great down here, but you need to breathe here. And he said this woman came back within a couple of weeks, and she was like, she had a bigger, more powerful voice. And I mean, my experience is actually that for most popular music, I don't need to move this. I don't need to do anything with this. I could just use my diaphragm. However, if I want to do any of the really difficult high notes that just require maximum control of a large amount of air over a period of time and, feed some vibrato into it or whatever, suddenly I find this has to move. And then I can do that kind of thing, and it's no issue. Whereas if I just move the diaphragm, my voice there's a little, it's just less powerful, it's weaker. And it's good enough to do a whole bunch of stuff, but filling up here as well, not instead of, as well, is really helpful. And it seems to me like a lot of what's going on, now this is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to do another video on this bit, right, but I'm going to give you a taster of it. I thought, well, let's go to medical articles, right? Because doctors and scientists and artists even have been looking at how your intercostal muscles move and how that impacts your breathing for centuries. And there's absolute genius. There's a physiology article here that is just like a review of all the literature. And apparently the literature includes Galen, that's like 200 before our common era, who states that the outer set affects breathing out and the inner breathing in. Now the thing is, I wonder how many drawings they were looking at there, right? Because for me, okay, so they're talking, when they're talking about intercostal muscles, they tend to mean the ones down here in the lower rib cage. But I was thinking about the ones up here in particular, and what happens to me when you breathe in, you've effectively got, in order for the diaphragm to relax, which is what it does this kind of movement. There we go, I'm in the camera there, when you breathe in, and so it expands and relaxes. In order for that to relax, two things happen. One of them is your belly softens and makes space and sort of flumps down. That's good. But in fact, in order to breathe enough, to get enough space and to do it quick enough, you need a lot of muscles up here, sort of intercostals around your upper ribs, to act as antagonists, I think is what they call them. So effectively, they're resisting kind of expansion in order that down here you can expand more freely. And so the ones that resist expansion are the ones on the inside. So you breathe in, and I can feel it as I do it. I'd love to hear what other people think. I've talked to students about this, but obviously that's like a handful of people over years, and their experience is limited to their experience. So if we can reach thousands of people and ask them, it would be really cool. But when I breathe in, I can resist with my inner intercostals around here against that inspiration. So they're active. To me, the intercostals down here are inactive. They relax because what happens is your lower chest expands. And in fact, if anything, it's the outer intercostals that are controlling that expansion to an extent. Not sure about that down below. I have to think about that. But then when you contract up here, then what happens is the outer intercostals contract. That's what it feels like to me. So actually, I reckon Galen's got a point. It sounds as if he was referring to intercostal muscles up here, and they are. I think they are intercostals because you've still got ribs up here, haven't you? Anyway, but then it says, in the Renaissance period, however, Leonardo da Vinci, wow, famous name, hey? He wades into this debate. Well, I better listen to him. Came to the opposite conclusion. Leonardo produced a number of drawings related to the anatomy and the physiology of the respiratory system, and one of them shows a lateral view of the thorax with the ribs and intercostal muscles exposed. And there's a picture of that here. And the text associated with this drawing states that the fibers interposed between the ribs along the obliquity of the internal intercostals serve to expel the inspired air, and that fibers on the outside, blah, blah, blah. So he's basically saying the opposite. But the thing is, he's referring specifically to the intercostals in your lower ribs. And so in that case, I would agree with him. Basically what I'm saying is I think the upper intercostals have a opposite kind of function to the ones lower down. And yeah, so I mean, I think, I've read further on in this, it gets much, much more complicated. But I think I might even be right. But we shall see. I'll do another video on that. Yeah, please ping me with a comment and tell me what's going on in your ribs and your clavicles while you're breathing, because I'd love to hear how people describe it. Because I think it's is such a ridiculous question that you'd think there'd just be an answer to it, like what muscles should I be using, please? And the best you'll get out of any singing teacher is, oh, we'll breathe down lower. Brilliant, yeah. I tell you what you do know, what you do notice, and that's that the breathing needs to feel free, and it needs to feel vibrant and relaxed. And I like that old school book that I quoted from, in the sense that he talks about running and walking being good exercises, because the idea is sort of, this big breath, is then enough to, you can really, you can pump out some notes after you've done that, like an exercise breath. It's not like a yoga breath, which is right down low, kind of sleepy candles, meditate. It's not that. It's like a big kind of vitality exercise, but like you're just about to start a sprint or a marathon or something. That's what really works, in my opinion. So in a way, I like his description, but I also think as a way to get there, maybe the reason Roger Love is so darn successful with his books is that just telling people to stop moving this, stop breathing like that, breathe down there where you can't see out of camera, and just inevitably anywhere you breathe in that direction somewhere is going to help you, because it means you have to have moved your diaphragm, and if you move your diaphragm, then it can contract. Have a nice day. Check out my music at robertmichaelk.com. Bye for now.